What's up guys, Onmaths here, and today we're looking at trigonometry. Now, for some of you it might scare you, trigonometry. For others of you, you might be quite confident with it. It is a grade 5 topic. It will definitely be in the grade 5 area of the exam, but it's one topic that they don't really experiment too much with. About maybe half of the questions are like as you see on the screen at the moment with the OCR questions. And the other ones, as you'll see, question 3, they've kind of muddled it a little bit, but using just basic triangle facts just to kind of get the right answer in the end. So there is a nice strategy for doing this, just step by step by step, which we're going to go through today. So first step is to understand that this is a trigonometry question. Now the big hint in this question is the fact that it says use trigonometry to work out the value of x. And sometimes the reason they do that is sometimes you can try and draw the triangle accurately and get the answer that way. But with this one, it's saying, no, you have to use trigonometry. Now, the reason we know that this is a trigonometry question is, first of all, we've got a right angle triangle, but it could be Pythagoras, it could be other things that we use. The important thing is that we've got two lengths and an angle, and one of them is unknown, okay? So two of them are known, one of them's unknown, but it has to be two lengths and an angle, and that's what we're looking for. Like you could have three lengths, you could have two angles, but two lengths and an angle as well as other things, and one of them being unknown. So step one of this is to label your sides, and the way you do that is you go opposite the right angle and you label that h for hypotenuse. That's the easy one because we know that from Pythagoras. The next one is opposite the marked angle, is called the opposite, and it's O for opposite. And the one left over, or the one between the right angle and the marked angle, and the marked angle just means the one given to you in the question, is the adjacent. Now adjacent means next to, okay, so if you sit adjacent to Jack, you'll be sitting next to Jack. And so it's next to the right angle and it's next to the marked angle, the one given to you in the question. Okay, so that's the second step. The next step is to cross out the one that we're just not using for this question. So the hypotenuse has 10.2 next to it. Yep, we're using that. The opposite has the x next to it. Yep, we're definitely using that. The one we're not using is this a here, so we just cross that out. We don't need that. The next thing is the big step, is to write down SOH CAH TOA. Now this is something you just have to learn. And we write it down like this. S-O-H, that's the SOH. C-A-H, that's the CAH, and T-O-A, that's the TOA. Now these are three triangles, okay, and some teachers don't teach it as triangles. I do, especially with foundation paper. So we've got to figure out which of the triangles we're using, because we won't use two of them. Well, what letter did we cross out? We crossed out A before, so anything with an A in it, like TOA, that's got an A in it. CAH has an A in it, we cross out. So we're going to be using SOH for today. So I'm going to draw a bigger triangle, okay, and I'm going to put in what the S, O and H stand for. Now the S stands for sine, and you always sine an angle. So we look at the question, see what the angle is, and put it in there. So it's sine 20. The C here stands for cos, the T here stands for tan. Okay, and you probably know that because it's buttons on your calculator. Sine, cos, tan. Okay. The O at the top stands for opposite, and that's marked. That's labelled as x. So we put an x in there. And the H is the hypotenuse, which is 10.2. Now the reason I do it as a triangle is you've used these triangles before in speed, distance, time, or pressure, or any like. There's a whole load of places you will use these triangles. And the way we use them is we put your finger over the one that we're trying to find. So we're trying to find x, so we put our thumb or finger over that. And it tells you how to work it out. Sine 20 times 10.2. Now, a little bit of a caveat here. A little bit of something to just be careful of. When you type this into your calculator, and I'm going to write down what the calculator says. When you type in sine, it will automatically open a pair of brackets. Then we're going to type in 20 times 10.2. Now do you see what happened there? We did sine 20, and when you click sine, it opens the brackets. when you press equals, it will automatically close that bracket, and that's not right. We're not signing the whole thing. So on your calculator, make sure when you click sine 20 that you close that bracket first. Now I'm going to get my calculator and I'm going to type in sine 20, close the bracket, it opens, and not all calculators do, but the modern Casio ones do, and I think the modern other ones do as well. And make sure you buy a decent calculator. Don't buy a £4 calculator that says it's scientific, but it really isn't. Just spend £6-7 on a decent calculator. I've worked with many students who have got cheap calculators, and talk to the school if you're not sure about which calculator to use. So type that in and we get 3.48860546 blah blah blah. Now we will obviously have to round that, so we're going to round it, I don't know, 1 decimal place, 3.5 to 1 decimal place. And always check the question, see if it tells you you've got to round it to something, but this question doesn't, it leaves it up to you. And normally with rounding I would pick 2 decimal places or 3 significant figures. So really I could have put it as 3.49 to 2 decimal, 3 significant figures or 2 decimal places. I know with OCR they're quite lenient. Normally they'll let you have 1 decimal place, but I would advise you 2 decimal places or 3 significant figures. 3 significant figures would have still been 3.49 as well. Next we move on to AQA, and we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did before. We've got a question here that looks like trigonometry, so we check. Have we got 2 lengths and an angle with one of them missing? Yep, we do. Have we got a right angle triangle, more importantly? Yes, we do. So let's go through the steps again. Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. Opposite the marked angle is the opposite. And next to the marked angle and the right angle is the adjacent, or the one left over. Cross out the one that we're not using. Well, the opposite is 3, the adjacent is 7, hypotenuse no interest at all in this question, so let's cross that out. Write down our SOH CAH TOA, SOH CAH TOA, and we've crossed out the H, so that gets rid of the sine and the cos, the SOH and the CAH, and leaves us with the TOA. So let's get our triangle out. Let's move it across a bit, give us a bit of space. Okay, so this time instead of sine anything, it's going to be tan, so it's going to be tan the angle. So this time it's tan x. So we've got a little bit of stuff to do when we've answered this question. Next we've got the opposite, which is 3, and then we've got the adjacent, which is 7. So let's get our division and time sign in. Okay, so the one that we're looking for is now here. Okay, so the problem is we don't get x equals 3/7. We get tan, oh, let's pick a different colour, right, there we are. Tan x equals 3/7. Okay, so we've got a bit of a problem here, because we need to find out what x is. We're not interested in what tan x is. So we have to solve this. Now, I'm going to give a different example, which has nothing to do with the question, but will help us to understand what we do next. If you've got x squared equals 36, and we put our lines in and all that stuff, what do? Well, you do the opposite of squared. You square root both sides, and you get x equals 6, or negative 6. Okay, so what we need to do is find the inverse function of the tan. So like square root's the opposite or inverse of squared, we've got to find the same for tan. And if you've stared at your calculator long enough, you'll have figured out that there's something just above tan called the inverse tan, and that's exactly what we do here. We inverse tan both sides. And when we do that, just like with the x squared, it gets rid of the squared. With this, it gets rid of the tan. And what we've got to do is inverse tan the whole of the 3/7. So we inverse tan 3/7. Now the way you do that on your calculator is you just click the shift or second function button or whatever you have on your calculator and then tan, and it will give you tan to the power of -1. It looks like to the power of -1, just means inverse. 3 over 7, or 3 divided by 7, close bracket, and always make sure you close bracket if you remember, and we get x equals 23.1985 blah 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 blah, and we'll round it to 3 significant figures, so 23.2 to 3 significant figures. And always show what you've rounded it to in your working out, and then write the answer. And we're asked to find length AB. Now, the first thing I would do is label length AB with X. It doesn't have to be X, it's nicer. So that we can reference X in our question. You could write down AB each time, that would be absolutely no problem. Okay, now we need to find one of the angles, and the reason for that is we can't answer this question unless we've got 2 lengths and an angle, and at the moment we've got 2 lengths with one of them being unknown, but we've also got the angle being unknown. And remember, of the 3, the 2 lengths and the angle, only one of them can be unknown to use trigonometry. But it does give us information. It says that the angle B, this one here, and angle A are in the ratio of 3 to 2. So what we need to do first of all is work out what both the angles add up to, and it's really simple. Do 180 take away 90, because we know that 90 degrees is already there, and we know angles in a triangle add up to 180, and that equals 90. So angle A and B add up to 90. Okay, that's the first thing we do. Right, now we need to split that 90 in a ratio of 3 to 2. Now, how do you split ratios? Well, there's a video earlier in the series about how to split ratios, but what we're going to do is add the parts together. So there's 5 parts in total. Get the 90 and divide it by 5, and that equals 18. So each part is worth 18. Now we've got to figure out whether we're going to go for angle B or angle A. Why not go for angle A? Okay, so we're going to go for angle A. Now angle A is this 2. It has 2 parts. One of them's worth 18, so we're going to do 2 lots of 18, which is 36. So this angle here is 36 degrees. Now if you have any issue with ratios or anything else, just watch the video on ratios earlier in the series. You can find it on the playlist. Okay, so now we have the 2 lengths and an angle with one of them being unknown. We start going through the steps of trigonometry. So opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Next step, cross out the one that's not interesting, that we're not using. The opposite has nothing next to it. Hypotenuse has the x, adjacent has the 14. Next step, write down SOH CAH TOA. SOH CAH TOA. Next step, cross out the triangle we're not using. So we've crossed out the O, so we're not using tan and we're not using sine. So it's going to be the cos. Next, draw the triangle, and we're going to have cos 36, and the adjacent is 14, and the hypotenuse is x. So we're trying to find x. Now, what you're going to type in your calculator is fraction button 14, let's change the colour, 14 over cos 36. Now what you might get is a syntax error. Okay, when you type that in, you might get something math error or syntax error or something like that. And the reason for that error is when you type in sine, cos or tan, we know it opens the brackets. But on some of the calculators, unless you shut that bracket before you press equals, it will come up with an error. Okay, so make sure you shut that bracket first. And it gives us the answer of 17.3049 blah blah blah. And we're going to round that to 17.3, 3 significant figures. So 17.3. And the reason why we picked 3 significant figures is it says it in the question. So always check the question to see whether it explicitly tells you to round it to something. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video or found it useful. If you did, please click like. We release videos every single weekday at 9 o'clock. Summer school is going to come to an end very, very soon. I think this is our penultimate video, so we've got one more video on Monday. Keep the comments coming in of stuff you want us to cover maybe after summer school. If you want to see even more from us, you can click the link at the top of the video now. It'll take you straight through to our website, onmaths.com, which is packed full of completely free maths resources to help you. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.